When we talk about density slicing, what we're talking about is taking a remote sensing image and then looking at all of the pixels as far as how their brightness is. And so this is the brightness of the pixels going from dark to bright. And this line here is meant to represent the histogram, or the distribution of how bright those pixels are. So in this example here, most of the pixels are medium gray, some are black, some are white on either end here. So all that we do with this, this type of density slicing is we just set a boundary, a limit of the digital number or the amount of brightness, and that's what this red line is representing here. Then every pixel under the histogram on this side perhaps would be assigned to a value of blue if we're trying to show where the water is, and every pixel on the other side of this red line would be assigned a value of 2, and that could be represented with another color. So in this example here, we're trying to find out where the water is. Water typically looks quite dark on remote sensing images, and so we can tell even by looking at it approximately where the water is. But if we do this sort of gray level thresholding so that everything either is or is not water, then we would get an image that looks like the one on the right here. All of the blue would be associated with water, and all of the black would be associated with land. So if it's something quite obvious like this, gray level thresholding can be a quick way to break out one class or category from another. However, sometimes we want to do a little more refinement of the density slicing. For example, if we're not sure whether some areas are just a little bit wet, or actually if they have running water on them, or maybe there's just it's just a very moist area, we might try to further break that histogram into different classes or categories here. And then each of these different classes, going back to the map, going away from the histogram and back to the map, we might assign that a different color to represent something else. So this would be a good thing to use if the variation in darkness and brightness closely corresponds to some attribute of the image that we're looking at. So with this kind of density slicing, we could once again use the same example here, and this might represent, for example, the darker blues might represent where the deeper water is because they're showing up as blacker on this image. Or some of these areas here where there's just a little dense might just be kind of wet areas that are not really part of this river system. So this type of density slicing is not just two categories, it's a number of categories, but it's the same idea. We're just kind of cutting up the histogram so that just by the darkness, we're able to break out different categories associated with the different things that we're seeing in the remote sensing image.